This is Professor Kim Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department of the Fashion Institute of Technology. Working on a tutorial for JD139 ideation. But this tutorial would be good for any of my courses where we have rendering content. I'm going to render the freesia demo that I have up for our rendering exercises. A second to locate my. Here we go. This will do. Primarily just interested with the freesia here. From this document and paste it in new document. So copy, paste in new image right here. Okay. I really do not wish to change my original. Having a hard time cycling back to it. Okay. No. Alright. Sorry. So I'm going to render this. I'm going to render it in black and white, which is the level we're working at this point this semester. Obviously working in Painter, not using traditional media, so I will use my standard method of putting the line work up on a gel layer and working the canvas. Start with a medium gray. And I told you only had to paint the one flower. I'll go ahead and attempt the whole image. Using as large a brush as I can. Not terribly concerned if I paint around the edges. That doesn't bother me much. I can clean it up easily enough. And usually it's not very noticeable in the finished piece anyway. But I will switch to a smaller brush here in just a minute to work on these more refined areas as far as scale is concerned. a few of the obvious areas where I went outside the boundaries. Alright, that's first value. Second value, shade. Remember that principle of low-hanging fruit, areas where I know I'm going to have shade, which is going to be anywhere something overlaps something else, especially to the right. If something overlaps from the left, the shadow will carry off to the right because of our light source. So that's pretty easy. Petals that are in front of other petals will cast a slight shadow. Okay. The next level is general form. This is a cone. Tapered cylinder. So this whole side will be in shade. This is a swollen cylinder. Side will be in shade. Another cone. Another swollen cylinder. Another swollen cylinder. Swollen cylinder, which kind of has a dome at the bottom. Ovoid, which is a long swollen cylinder with a dome at the bottom. Same. Okay, basic things, easy things for me to see. Now I'm going to have to use my imagination to some extent. The inside of the flower is a cone, like the pavilion of a stone. So you're going to have shade on the faces of these petals and light on the faces of these, which means that edge will go into a little bit of a shadow. This is curled up, blocking the light. Light will catch in here, but this is all in shadow under here. Same here. I picture this having a slight vein or depression down the middle. I like this vein idea, however I got that in reverse. It would actually, I know, the glory of undo, it would actually be more shaded on this side and the light would catch here. Same here. Cone. So I'll put this whole surface into shadow. That also helps me pop this one out a bit. Shading as it comes around. A little bit of shading up in here and under here and along that edge. Smaller brush. When I have a small area like the stems, I'll really just do a diagonal slash across them. You know, it's enough to give the impression of light traveling along the metal. Okay, now I'm going to do my light value. Light is going to catch down into here. Light is going to catch along this. Light will fill in here and along that edge. Light will catch here and here. Now this looks white, but it really isn't. You can see that. Okay, a little bit here, here, and there. And I'm really just sculpting with my brush at this point. I'm feeling it, where I feel the area raised, where I think the light might go. There is no rule. I'm not looking at anything as reference. Okay, the light's going to catch here, not there. Here. In here. Here. Along there. And into here. Into here. And a little bit into there. I'm undecided here, and so I made something that makes no sense. That's alright, I'll fix it. Along this edge. Here. Inside of there. Along the front of this. Along that rounded cylinder, ovoid lip. Top of this, the edge of that, top of this, bring my brush stroke down. Top of this, under here, there, here, on there, that might be too bright. There. Okay. I'm going to stop. I need some light up on this panel here. Okay. Before I do anything more, I will come in with more values to see what really needs it. I do have my reflected lights. I can start adding those though, and that is done with the light shade. Along here. Along here. A little under there. Finding and losing it along here. So I'll leave that alone for now. You know, there are areas I don't really know what's happening with them yet, and since I have 2 more values to go, I may not need to do anything with them. It may be busy or interesting enough as it is. So until I know I need more, I'm not going to add more. If I'm not confident about where it goes. So that looks pretty reflective. It has a good basic form, coarse shadow. Coarse shadows, well, coarse shadows are once again for the strong shadows where things go over and under. At least that's where I'll start them. Because once again, it's low-hanging fruit. It's easy to figure out core stays closer to the light than the outside edge. So I'm putting in these core shadows. Adding more and more of them where I'm confident they make sense. Since it's on organic type of forms, they don't, swollen floral types of forms. They tend to not be too terribly linear. That one's fairly linear. But I try and have them be less static, tapering, swelling. This is a painter tip. Now you're working with a paintbrush at home, it's not as critical, because, well, it'll happen automatically because brushes respond to pressure much more readily than a digital stylus does. But you will want to use different size brushes. So do kind of all of your fatter strokes first. Decrease your brush size for more detailed sorts of line work. Remembering that what these core shadows actually represent are reflections on the metal. That's about all I can do with that size of brush. Take it down. Now I have opacity at 100%, and that is why these are really stark. I hadn't noticed that before. You wouldn't normally want that. You would want it somewhere even lower than 70 for painting. You'd want it closer to 60%. And that's why these edges are coming off so hard. You'll notice I do a lot of outlining. I create like an outlined sort of field of reflection. There's no rule to that. I've just found that it's a nice effect over the years. It's a nice way to treat these core shadows. Once again, staying away from the actual light area, but getting closer to it than the other side. And then creating somewhat of an outlined cell that fills that area. This area of dark is a cast shadow. The rest of it is a reflection. Cast shadow. Reflection. 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 A little bit of form and reflection there. Same here, allowing that to feel a little more rounded off. This is more detail than you're likely to be able to do with your paintbrush, by the way. I'm getting a little carried away because I'm a painter and I can do things easily that are fairly elaborate. But the idea is the same. I would actually bring in these thin lines in with the paintbrush if I was doing a full color rendering and not an indication. They're a nice finishing touch. that's about enough for the core shadow. Okay. The next level, maybe put a little bit here. And once again, where I'm putting these has a lot to do with that value study exercise we did, with the newspaper images, where I just feel out areas that would be nice to have a little bit of dark. And I put it in white for our highlights. Same principle as with the darks. I'm going to start with larger brush strokes and work my way down to more delicate ones. And once again, pretty much feeling my way along. Now this indicates a paper edge, and I know I can't have that. A very thin edge, so I'm going to put a little bit of a highlight along its rim so it feels like it's rounded off. Same thing through here. Also helps with the effect of over and under. And it's okay that I'm obliterating some of the core shadow work I did. That is intentional. The effect of reflections is layering of texture, layering of detail. Okay. That's pretty good. I'm going to now kick back the size of the brush so I can do some of the similar detail work that I was doing with the core shadow. On edges that I know are right into the light, I'll bring a light rim on them. also still adding information where I think it needs it. Don't care for that. Fortunately in Painter I can undo. If I were in gouache, I would have had to paint over that, which happens. Fleck of highlight here and there against the shadows makes it sparkle. If you do it too much, you'll lose your form. That is pretty good. There's a little bit of reflected light missing. And I'm going to pick up, which is my lightest gray. And that's primarily under here. And under here. Lighter work in some of the shaded areas now that seem a little heavy to me. As well as breaking up some of the highlights that became too linear. Okay, so I'm just looking around for things that I think could be improved. This is not a bad little rendering as it is, so I'm not really worrying. Yeah, I think that'll do. Only thing left that I would really pay attention to are the stamens. I haven't done the stamens yet. And those are right here. And the stamens I'm going to start with white. Their highlights first, and then core shadow. I'm basically going to do them black and white. That's really enough. To show that they're there. And that's it, class. That's a fairly well rendered. I'll tickle it to death if I keep looking at it. Oh, I remember what I didn't like. When I painted this in, I neglected to put any shadow. So I put in some core shadow because I knew it needed something. But actually, to have a nice feeling of form there, I needed the shade value, which I didn't have any of. Reestablish my core shadows and reflections a little bit, and catch that with a highlight. Catch that rim with a highlight and call it done. Okay, That's a finished tutorial. Thanks so much for watching.